So who out there, Molly knows what's up, who wants to be rich? Why do you want to be rich? For nice things, right? You want to live large, big house, 5 cars. Unless you got the reference. But we all want to be rich, right? But the underlying reason behind that for a lot of us is to buy things that we think will make us happy. You guys recognize these people?
Yes.
Amanda Bynes, Nick Cage, MC Hammer's Parachute Pants, Mike Tyson, Ed McMahon. These people all have one thing in common, and that's that they made it big. They became multi-millionaires, acting, boxing, singing. And they lost it all because they thought that those material things that they could get once they were rich would make them happy. Created this never-ending cycle of wanting more and more and more. And their short-term wealth generated from a short boxing career or a one-hit wonder from MC Hammer. And they all ended up broke. Most of them ended up on drugs at some point in their life, ended up depressed, even though that they became rich, which was their dream at some point in time. So what we find is that money oftentimes does not equate to happiness. We can see here, it looks like it's written in crayon. This was stats from a real study, I promise. This was in 1950 dollars. They researched over time how people's happiness changed with their income level, and they found that once our basic needs were met, knowing where our next meal was going to come from, having a roof over our head, once we got to that point, increasing our income did not increase their happiness level. So I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why things that we oftentimes aspire for do not make us happy, and those are the debt that they sometimes bring to us, the temporary thrill that we get from buying something that quickly fades away, and then the social aspects of being too materialistic. So in the case of debt, as Americans, we're probably the most indebted people in the world. Of those that are in debt, the average credit card holder who carries a balance, $15,500. The average mortgage carries a balance of $153,000. Student loans, for those that have them, average over $32,000. If you add all of these up for everybody in the country, it's over $11 trillion that Americans are indebted. And remember that we pay interest on these balances. That's billions of dollars that we're giving away just to be in debt for whatever various reason. So here's a good example of how the debt cycle can get started. We're starting a new semester in January, and maybe our laptop's starting to crap out on us, so we want to get a nice new one for, let's say, $1,000. But we don't have $1,000 in our pocket ready to burn, so we decide to put it on our credit card instead. With varying APRs from 10 to 15 to 25, keep in mind that just about every credit card is going to be closer to 25%. You can see that making the monthly payment makes that $1,000 laptop over a period of 36 months. It ends up costing you over $1,400 for that same $1,000 laptop. At the end of those 3 years, what do you think that $1,000 laptop is worth? $300, $400? So now you've just finished paying off $1,400 for a laptop just in time to have to get a new one as technology changes. Car loans are another great example, and this specific example I got from somebody that I work with who needed a little financial advice. So this is a good example for how the debt snowball can get started and how it can vary you over time. So let's say that you need a new car that costs $20,000 and you've taken good care of your credit. You haven't run up credit card balances, missed payments. Say you get a pretty good interest rate of about 4.5%. Maybe you can do even better than that. After a down payment of $2,000 with no trade and the other fees that come in, you'll be paying $375 a month, which, you know, we're all in different scenarios, but that could be pretty manageable for a lot of us at a certain point in our life. The person that I work with does not have good credit, and they did not get 4.5% on this $20,000 car. They took out a loan at 22% on a $20,000 car. And you can see how, over time, with that 22% interest rate compounding, your monthly payment skyrockets up to $556, and you end up paying over $35,000 for a $20,000 car. Just like the laptop example, at the end of that 60-month term, what is your $20,000 car worth? Probably $4,000 or $5,000, and you've just forked out $35 grand for it. Congratulations. So this is a prime example of why becoming buried in debt can be really difficult to escape from. Because once your credit starts to drop, you have a hard time finding good interest rates, and you find yourself with heavy car payments. So why do we shop? Some people get a big rush from it. There's an adrenaline that comes from it. There are endorphins in our brain that are released when we buy a big screen TV at Costco, right? Whatever it is Jimmy Choo shoes, whatever your vice is. That temporary rush comes from those endorphins, as I said, and those wear off within hours, sometimes minutes. And all that you're left with is that aforementioned debt that I talked about if you couldn't afford the purchase, and shopping guilt that I assume looks something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having my back. And lastly, there are social aspects to consumerism. When we get buried in debt and we can't escape from it, there's a lot of stress. It takes a toll on our relationships. Money incompatibility or financial problems that develop are one of the top causes of divorce in America. And the stress that comes from being buried in high debt that comes from our consumerism has been linked to depression and other health issues. So in summary, burying yourself in debt just to get that temporary rush of owning something material for a short period of time is not a good choice. The debt's difficult to escape. The rush you get from it is going to disappear quickly, and you could even be left with social and health problems as a result of it. So, debt is bad. Thank you.
We'll be here all night.
What's the last thing you splurged on?
The last thing that I splurged on, I actually bought 2 laptops on Black Friday. I'm not going to lie. One for me and one for my wife. Hers is about 6 years old, and it's going to die pretty soon. It's pretty much dying. And I just have a work laptop that I probably shouldn't be using for personal stuff, so I decided I'll stop doing that and get my own. But I bought them on Amazon flash deal on Black Friday, so I got one for $350. It was normally $600. One for $249. It was normally $500. So I feel okay about it.
All right, Mark.
Would being rich while keeping your family, what was it? Happy. Is that the same as being rich in general?
Can you explain?
Like, okay, like you're providing the money for your family. Like, say you won the lottery, and you're not using the money necessarily to spend. You're actually saving it in. Okay. Would that technically still be the same thing as being rich?
Well, there's not anything inherently wrong with being rich or wealthy or having money or even owning things. The problem is when those things become how you identify yourself, and when you start to want a little bit more than you have today just for the status that comes with it. Those actors and singers and whatever that were up on the screen, they had tens of millions of dollars, and they chose not to put it away and provide for themselves for the future. They chose instead to want a little bit more tomorrow than they had today, and they ended up broke and unhappy because of it. So there's no problem with money, there's no problem with wealth, there's no problem with things. You just need to prioritize and understand the things that will actually make you happy, and not get in this endless cycle of keeping up with the Joneses and getting into debt to buy things that really won't even matter at the end of your life.